I didn't have a platform at that time, so I just thought that WhatsApp is the easiest way to get started. And then it suddenly blew up, right? Like I thought that maybe by end of 1 year, we'll have maybe 200, 300 members. But within the first 6 months, we were already hitting like 2,500 plus members.
Welcome, Shivang, to the Oka One World Family podcast, where we go Ichigo, Ichie. Nothing is prepared, everything is in the moment. We're just going to have a conversation and see where life takes us this hour.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Liran. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time. I'm wearing my joyful shirt today because I'm feeling very privileged to have this time with you. You have quite the background in be doing and in be making. Maybe you can share very quickly what you're currently focusing at and why you're doing it.
Sure. So I've been building the Generative Beings, which is an ecosystem of AI founders and builders. So I've been in the tech space for the last 10, 15 years, worked with consumer tech companies, early stage to unicorns to decacorns. And for the last 2.5 years, looking at how the AI is shifting the entire way people look at solving problems, the way companies are adopting it, I felt that there's a gap that I can help fix. So we work with a lot of AI founders across Southeast Asia, help them in their go-to-market access. And then that's the part about like working with them, learning a lot more than what I could have had I been building a product myself. So it's a community ecosystem of founders, builders, and experts. And we're trying to see how to continue to create value for each of them through our platform and through the community events that we do.
Okay, thank you. We just had a little meditation before we get started. So feeling at ease. I know when always somebody asks me like, what do you do and why are you doing this? Sometimes I say what, but I don't clearly say the why.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share a little bit about your
Sure.
why.
Yeah, so this came up in like a panel yesterday evening as well. Someone was sharing, so we were on a panel discussion around like how CEOs from AI ecosystem work. And someone pointed out the why behind the pitch or the storytelling that usually founders give. The why behind was very simple. I was trying to find an ecosystem where I could learn about how to get started with AI, how to understand as a product and a marketing and a GTM person, how do my skills need to get upgraded for the future? And I tried to find that in Singapore. I couldn't find a community. So I thought, let me just get people in a room and have a conversation. So that why was basically trying to solve a problem for myself, that how could I stay relevant in the future of this new age technology. And that led me to actually get more deeper. And the deeper I got, I realized that everything I've been building up till now, which is trying the products I was working with, helping customers access that, understanding the real core value, adopting it, and then actually becoming a retention customer. That challenge can now be deployed across like millions of new products that are coming out. So while I was solving something for myself, I realized everyone else was also looking to solve that problem in one way or the other. And I realized it became like a need for community, for people who may not be very savvy in the tech or AI space, but are looking for some sort of help or support from each other.
And you hail from India originally.
Yes, I'm from India, from the Delhi capital region, but I've been here in Singapore for the last 8 years. Me and my wife, and we have a daughter, a 4-year-old daughter. She's Saisha. So our life is here, but yeah, it's been really interesting being able to see the cultural differences and the similarities across the Southeast Asian ecosystem.
You seem very, in good shape mentally. I noticed that in you when we first spoke. What do you do to help yourself go through the days? There's a lot of stress in doing what you're doing.
So again, yeah, it might look that yes, I'm all there, but I think as anyone who's trying to build something, you have all of those things which internally continue to affect you. We talk to a lot of early stage founders as well, and this sort of like the burnout is a very real thing. Like when you just get out of college, you don't realize that thing is real. You just feel like life is going to be fun and chill. But when you actually start building out and when there's a lot of things at stake, you start to doubt the decisions unless it's not leading to positive outcomes, right? And that's what's happening with a lot of people, like even with myself, right? I'm building this out. trying to stay positive, trying to figure out the reason why I'm doing this, and there is something at the end of the tunnel, right? Because if that wasn't the case, then the early success that I'm trying to see in what I'm trying to build would not have happened. But also knowing the fact that it's not at the stage where it's self sustaining. Like if I am in a hospital, or let's say I stop working for 2 weeks, things will just crash. So I am pushing it. That's how it needs to be. But after a while, it needs to have a life of its own. That's what I think every early stage founder is also trying to struggle with. That how can we create like a runway? How can we create a recurring revenue so that starts to sustain, so that you can move on to other things. Family helps definitely, right? Spending time with your kid. We live near the beach, so weekends, spending time there in the pool, all of those things help to calm you down, take off that stress. But it never really goes away, right? Like for founders and builders, they'll get it. It never really goes away.
I was giving this talk about the art of slowing down last week, and one of the things I started with was like, imagine you're right now in the hospital, and what got you there? Why are you here? And this is the moment when you become sick, when you realize, I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
So you really have a time to hit rest. And I think one of the main things that is happening is that we're just so entrenched with our work all the time that we don't do a lot of things for our spirit, for sometimes for our body. Even if we nourish our body with good sleep and exercise, sometimes we don't nourish it with enough spirit. So I am always like, I have this page here with a bunch of notes.
Mm.
And I look at this page every morning when I wake up before I start working. So it says privileged and precious because I know how privileged I am to be doing what I'm doing, to have lived the life that I've lived, that whatever has already happened in life, I'm very grateful that I had this journey, and precious in around everything that I do, that it must be precious. Whatever I bring to my family or my friends or my neighbor or the organization that I work for or with. Just everything is so precious, right? Because
Yeah.
every person we bring to our life, every decision we make, if we don't do it with the idea of how precious everything is, and we really screw up things, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely right. I think it's very hard to slow down. You either get stuck in that zone, like that zone where you're either not moving at all, or you're just in that rush to continue doing things because you feel like if you don't, you're losing out. Something is like an opportunity cost is there of not doing things, but there's also an opportunity cost of like moving fast in the wrong direction. And then many a times, like as founders, it's like it becomes a sort of like a self-inflicted burden that you have to continue doing this and you're trying to hold yourself accountable. But you're right, like it's when you ask the hard questions, which usually don't even I didn't, right? So in our last conversation, you asked a couple of those questions, and I was like, yes, what if every founder we could get them like this sort of a checklist that hey, ask yourself this every day. That changes the perspective on life, and that probably also helps them understand how to prioritize their work versus life and their energy that they're spending trying to build something.
Earlier this morning, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a coach, and she
Mm.
asked me if I like to coach you. I was like, I'm doing so well in life right now, but I actually feel like I need it. Again, I've already done it. And
Mm.
it's like, it's a never ending story about how we could lead better, especially as leaders, and making sure we're humble and we know we're not always right. And one of the things I have on my page here is that the reminders to be smart, not to be right about this. I'll read you a few of the things that I have here. It says, know I always have enough. Be very, very strong and don't always allow yourself to slip in, like wake up very early. Surrender, don't judge, and don't argue. Be patient, be grateful. It's okay to rest, to enjoy, or to do nothing. Lara, my wife, she's always the most important. Feel my heart for a moment. So have a moment that I remember that it's there. Receive gifts from the challenges and difficulties. So figure out what they are, and only eat what I need and say what I should. Be compassionate for all the other guests, and dealing with problems with calmness, and give love for everyone, and that there's no fear from nothing. and the river flows. Let's do it. Let's keep the past over there. Things that whatever was there before that, that has ended.
I would love to copy some of those and use them as daily manifestation statements. Right. Again, I feel that this mindfulness and these manifestation exercises they're now coming up again, right? Like mental health is something that everyone's talking about, especially in this age. Yoga and meditation are one way, but actually, how do you rewire your brain, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening around that, and while I myself am not able to comprehend the outcome of that change, but I definitely do feel that the way we are wired, this ability or inability to change oneself, to be a better person, to be a better human being, it won't happen by itself, right? Like there have to be these behavioral nudges, and I feel like these sort of like statements and all help in doing that. I feel that there's a lot of mental health and well-being now coming like at the forefront. Everyone's talking about it. Manifestation exercises, self introspection, beyond just meditation and yoga. And then that's the way to sort of rewire your brain, rethink who you are, who you can be, and sometimes you need an external guide. So yes, even though let's say you would have done it, you still, if there is an external guide or a mentor to help, it definitely helps, right? Because your perspective keeps on changing, keeps on shifting, and after a while your mental model will go into that daily routine that you've been used to like all your life.
So tell me two things you're doing great right now in your life, in your business, and two things that you would want to change, that you would want to be better at. Bring it on.
Okay. So in terms of business, I think what I feel I'm doing good is that I have identified some early opportunities that can create value, and it's also creating revenue, right? So I'm trying to stick to that to push forward and see how we can scale it further. The other thing is that I'm taking the approach of giving value. So let's say even if there's no revenue generation, at least there's value that's getting created, right? So it builds the credit economy, and then gradually over time, it's like when you've given so back to the community, something is going to come back to you. What I feel I really need to improve on is to basically have a much bigger picture of what I'm doing right now versus where I need to be, and hiring folks to scale. So that's been one of my biggest challenges as early stage founders as well. It is difficult to find people initially to work with, but at least in my stage, I'm my own bottleneck right now. There's so much things I should be doing which I'm not able to because my energy and time is being spent somewhere else. So that's the chicken and egg situation I'm in right now.
I see. Yeah, organizing our time to be the most essential is so important, right? On the everyday. And yeah, I'm also having this problem with hiring people for the One World family. We're currently hiring, and
Mm.
it's not easy to find good people. I like to say that whatever you put your attention on expands, right? So maybe we
Mm.
both need to put more of our attention into
Exactly.
this. When we had our first conversation, we talked about how building community versus creating more communities coming to collaborate together. Tell me a little bit about how it is that you're building community. And then later, maybe we could figure out how we could merge, the different communities, find solutions for real collaborations. Because all the time, everybody's working on their own thing. There's so much
Mhm.
collaboration that could happen, but we're not finding the space. And we don't even look. There's so many good things just around the corner, or from people we already know, but we're just not creating this collaboration, right? So
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about how
sure.
you're building community in your company,
Mm.
and how maybe how we could like delve into collaboration more.
Yeah. So when I started off, it was one me trying to find a place where I can meet other people who are building AI products and just learn, hear from them what they're thinking, how they're solving a problem, which is very early stage to understand the AI ecosystem. The more I got into it, same, we just started to do more of those conversations. It was like a simple event, 50, 60 people turned up. We did like a round table, everyone sort of like going around the table and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm building, this is how I can help, and this is where I need help, right? So that basic thing led to a very simple concept of, okay, let's just get a like an AI mixer going, let's get people who are interested. And then after, based on their feedback, we started to identify, okay, people are interested to listen to these big AI companies and senior leaders and understand what is generative AI, what is LLM. So then we started to build panel discussion, plus networking events. So in a way, it was still heavily offline event driven. And based on what people were coming and telling us that this is what they want, we started to evolve. Very early on, we just created a WhatsApp group because after one or two events, I realized that there's so much information and these folks need to connect with each other. I didn't have a platform at that time, so I just thought that WhatsApp is the easiest way to get started. And then it suddenly blew up, right? Like I thought that maybe by end of 1 year, we'll have maybe 200, 300 members. But within the first 6 months, we were already hitting like 2000, 2500 plus members. And then WhatsApp became like non-scalable because it has limits. So we built up like a very basic platform, a website to allow people to just put their information there. But WhatsApp still continued to be. So the community started as like a very natural progression. We do events, people come in, they meet each other, we get people into the WhatsApp, and then we started creating these chat groups to say that, okay, do you want to have a technical discussion? Go here. Do you want to have a job discussion? Go here. Do you want to say hi and hello or promote your product? Go here. Because everything was compiling into one single big group, and then it became like it's just too confusing and cluttered. So that became the starting point that, okay, this is now how a community is being built on WhatsApp. We're promoting the next event, we're getting other AI founders and builders, they are promoting their event, so it becomes like a very good synergy. And over time we realized that like the community engagement has like a spike and a drop, right? And over time everyone's usually looking for the next new thing, so they'll start jumping onto the new networks that will come in, and then gradually the networks that exist, they'll start to sort of see lower engagement because of the nature of interactions. Like we had 500,000 messages being sent every day, so people could not follow or track all of it, and then they started silencing the group itself. So that became like an internal case study. Like over communication led to in like non communication. And we realized that anyone who's coming in and going out of the WhatsApp, there is no way for us to track if it's a genuine person, if it's a bot. We had to push out a lot of people so that maintaining the community quality engagements, if people start talking about crypto or political issues and all, trying to like pacify them, shut them down, anyone who's spamming or doing solicitation, removing them instantly. So it started to become like a full-time job, right? Which sort of created an unwanted pressure because the community was like, it was meant to be like free and chill. And then it became like, oh, I need to be a moderator and I need to play that role. So we started to evolve that concept to say that let's focus on where the value is, right? So community doesn't mean it's a group, it's a chat or something. Chat becomes one of the components where people can come and meet each other. But the actual community is that sense of belonging that, yes, we're going towards a common vision. So that vision is what we have been refining. So that on one side, we have a list of, let's say, partners or companies who are providing AI solutions. And on the other side, we have this next 1 billion people who want to learn and build their skills and know which tool to use for what problem solving, right? But how do you do this matching? So this matching comes together through the events that we do. But over time, now we have a marketplace platform where people can find and discover each other. So now it's been evolving, right? So initially it started with one, we doing an event, getting them into WhatsApp, then doing this frequently, and now it's just diversified into a full ecosystem. So now it's more professional, more standardized. It allows us to work with other communities as well. So anyone who's building another AI community can just simply come onto a platform, or they can join the chat group. They're doing their own AI events. They can just plug it into the platform and we'll push it out to the community ecosystem. So the idea is like while we do our own thing, we enable everyone who is in the AI space to showcase what they're doing and help them reach out to customers. So that became like a broader way to create a very collaborative potential for our platform rather than being that, okay, we are three AI communities, can we collaborate or not? And that happens, right? You will also face that similar challenge of you have a community, but you'll also know that there are other players who are in that similar space. In some aspects, there is a good synergy, and that synergy I feel only comes through finding the overlap, right? Like where are the complementing benefits, and how do we cross pollinate the networks into each other so that over time it becomes like a bigger community family. and you have two smaller groups inside. But over time, the same person is going to be in multiple groups. So why not figure out a way to build that synergy, grow it together? But it's hard. If it's very mutually exclusive communities, there is no competition in terms of, again, depending on what the revenue model or business model is. If they're not competing, it's easier to come together. But if it's similar, then it becomes a challenge. And then that's where you really need to figure out, let's find one key point where we can collaborate and then just go after it and push it and experiment and see where it goes. Sorry, that was like a really long
And can you,
response.
that was no, that was very valuable. Can you quickly share with me that just and with the audience the name of the community where you could like find it? Maybe
Sure.
something we
Yeah.
haven't.
So we're trying to be the AI platform for Southeast Asia. You can find it on the generativebeings.com. So it's like human beings, artificial beings, generative beings. That was the concept behind building the name. The platform allows you to see all the early stage AI products as well as big companies who are our partners listed on the platform. You can discover all the members, where are they from, what is their role, what are they doing, what are they looking for. You can find a lot of jobs as well. Every event that we listed or upcoming events can also be listed there. So we have these chapters running in Singapore, India, and in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. But we've got people from over 100 countries who have created their account on our platform. So there's definitely like an appetite to be more global, but we're going after like the more local story to how do we highlight the founders and builders of Asia through the platform and then work with them in their go-to-market access.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that. It is a beautiful juncture to be in where you're at because it's such exciting times and it's developing so fast and there's so many people and so much energy around this right now. I'm curious if you had one wish for something you would want to happen today. Is it like an investor? Is it like, I don't know, somebody who would join your team? Or what would be like
Mm.
one wish you would make for your business at the moment?
I think right now, not putting it on the commercial side, but more on the discovery side. I wish every AI founder in Southeast Asia could discover TGB and start to list their products. And from there, that discovery and journey can begin because that's the real mode. They're the people who are doing innovation, and the platform is going to serve them the most.
And in the business model of the platform, people pay a
No, it's
retainer
free.
to.
It's free. So it's a free model in terms of the platform gives you access to a lot of things. Um, the monetization angle comes from us working with companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, right? And doing certain paid masterclasses or sessions or events with them. So they get access to that entire ecosystem of professionals that we have nurtured, access to the network of startups that we have. But the early stage startups just need discoverability. Once they list, they get distributed into our ecosystem, they get that visibility. But then over time, we can work with them on different packages of go to market access. It could be like just digital distribution, it could be running exclusive events for them so that they get in front of 20, 50, 100 potential customers, have 2 hours to spend with them to showcase what they're building, the problem they're solving. And that's worth the money versus waiting for 6 or 8 months for people to discover them virtually and then have a feedback like loop. So it's free. I mean, again, that's the idea that anyone and everyone should be able to discover what's happening. But then over time, the plan is to create more meaningful and exclusive content, have courses, have masterclasses, paid masterclasses, and have certain discounting for the paid members. But right now, it's all free.
I see. And do you like, I know everybody's running really fast right now, and that
Yeah.
sometimes gets everybody to not notice maybe the most essential. If everybody would just slow down for a little bit and just try to do less to focus on the most imperative, what do you think? How would that affect what you're doing? Or what comes to mind when you think about if everybody just took it one step down on a slower vibration? How would things would look like versus the way they look right now?
Yeah. I think with the entire hype around AI, it's now very difficult for someone to just pause or like just see what's happening, because it's everything. There's so many new things that are being thrown at you from across the globe. So many things are moving that every day, it's not even that every month there is a new update. Every 2 hours there is something big happening at a big company, and you just feel like losing out and like what's happening. I think one thing which might be helpful, and I also need to do that, is like if we take a pause and we actually remove the lens of, hey, what's moving so fast, but think about what matters, right? What are the problem statements? What are the challenges? Like, why are you trying to solve that? And then see if moving fast helps or not. Right? Everyone right now, and maybe it's dependent on like what age bracket you are in your life, right? Like what matters to you. Well, I think if we pause down a bit, we might have a better idea of realigning our path. So same, like it'll help us to probably avoid moving fast in the wrong direction. But I also feel that sometimes it's very difficult. So you do need some external support or validation. That's where mentorship and community and sort of, like openly sharing and ideas and thinking about who has gone through that journey or challenge, and then that sense of belonging. I think that's needed. Otherwise, if you're just taking a pause, you'll probably most likely you'll get stuck and you'll feel like I really now need like a huge push to get me started again.
Yeah, there is this notion that if we stop, we're not going to be able to pick up again. But in a world of, coffee drinkers and waking up to do so much, one of the things that I'm pursuing is to understand how things we could do to slow down so we could really be more focused on the most important things. And one of the things is coming up is these like small habits of within our day. Like I have this paper that I look at. I live now in Thailand, so I go sometimes for a massage. The other day, I was in a rush to go to the massage. I was like, that is such a paradox.
Ironically, yeah, paradox.
I,
So
I
what
feel
is
like, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to understand. You're on top of this, right? So you do understand, and that's why you also like promoting on how we could actually what is the right things to ask ourselves and where to focus in life. Like that, where to focus is really critical. But what can be some of the ways where individuals can actually slow down, think about like realigning their thought process? Everyone is struggling with something or the other, right? But they're all just hiding it, and it gets bottled down, and after a while it just blow up somehow. So that sense of clarity, even if you get it, how you actually change or move, I think is very difficult.
I think that there's a lot of work that we need to do with ourselves. And like when I wake up in the morning, I have this thing. Usually I wake up with an alarm because otherwise I would oversleep or sleep too late. I shut down the alarm really quickly and I try to look at the ceiling for like a couple of minutes. Just like don't go and rush into things. Just from that moment. And then just having these small habits. Maybe I go and I have a glass of water before anything. Try just to be slow in the beginning, and then maybe like sit down for a moment and write an intention. Now maybe you're rushing with your kid to take her to kindergarten, or sometimes that's not available, that slowness when you wake up. But as soon as you put her in the kindergarten or at school, maybe there you have a moment. How are we designing our day so that we have space and a space for awareness within the day? I think that's designing the day is very important. I try to have my day in blocks. So if I would do a conversation like this, it would usually be in this time where I'm more like relaxed and focused into it. If I have sales calls or stuff like that, I try to keep that all together as another block. I try to now not have back to back meetings anymore. I've done that all my life. Sometimes it still
Sure.
happens. And then I'm like, I'm such an
Right.
idiot that I just didn't put a 15-minute, a 30-minute window and just do a little less. Sometimes I just look at my calendar. I was like, I don't really want to talk to these people. These people are not what are going to get me forward. It's like having these awareness of choosing how we spend our time and not rushing into whatever is coming, because this at the end of the day, right, this is like a truck that comes to your doorstep and unloads 50 boxes every morning. And then before you look left and right, you got 50 more boxes with another truck. And it's just over and over again. So I think that everybody has to just acknowledge we need to stay humble. When you're in your early 20s and sometimes early or late 30s, you're still in that, like, I can conquer the world, I can do everything. I want to catches up to you. I'm a person who's already gone through a few burnouts. I've gone through some failures, terrible failures even, and also some nice successes. So I feel like I'm at a moment in life where I could just say, you know what? I'm still gonna make mistakes, but it's this constant wanting to improve because we're still founders in our way. We like to create our path. We are not here to get a job. And for that, we have responsibility to lead. And how would we lead others if we're not leading ourselves properly? So embodying this leadership and this inner leadership, right? That's anywhere between our thoughts and our emotions. There's this like inner leader, this center that we need to connect with every day to be better humans. That's a constant work. We never really get there. Some days maybe we live more of that or less, right?
But definitely, yeah, the change is the only constant, right? That thing, it keeps on moving up and down. Knowing how to get out that down phase, and when you're up, making sure that yes, ready for the down phase. So not like it's just keeping that mental strength, that willpower, right, to stay on track, right, no matter what's happening around you. And that's why I think like that notion of slowing down in life a bit, it doesn't mean that you stop doing things, right? It's just like the decision making and giving time for yourselves, rethinking. Sometimes, yeah, it's like the entire weekend's gone by and I can't even visualize what are the things that happened. It was just like a blur. And then sometimes it just might be that your entire week looks like empty and you feel like, oh my God, there's nothing on the calendar, right? So shit, am I doing something right or wrong? This is just managing your energy, managing your time. So how do you fill it up? How do you use that? I think when you're working in an organization, there is that structure made out for you. So sometimes it's easier that, okay, great, 10 to 5, you're working. This is my routine. I need to go. And in that time frame, I need to deliver value. Outside of that, I have my own life. When you start, let's say, doing remote work, when you're working from home, or when you're starting to do your own thing, then all of it just like just fuses into like one single track. So I've also been trying to just play around with AI a bit to build like a desktop app, something for myself. I can use it. I can just dump all of that information I know about people into Claude Code, which would be highly unethical. But companies do that, people do that, and it can create smart trackers for you. But I'm trying to just see that can I just bring all of my life into my desktop, not pass it into an AI model, and then just run some analysis and create my own smart to do list, figure out my goals in my personal life and my work life, and can that system be refined to become like my life's OS operating system. So that's something just I'm testing as like a fun thing to do on the side, where I realize that there is a lot that these new technologies can offer us. And I think that's where this especially helping you stay on track. So giving you that nudge, hey, slow down, pause, think through, breathe, do that 2 minute exercise. Like a very good example is that Apple Watch, right? That like I used to wear it like a long time back, and it had that, yeah, every hour it'll tell you to stand up. I mean, in a way you will think like, what is it for? But it's basically helping you break that loop that you're stuck into, like something like a sedentary lifestyle. So you move and you're back, you're now looking around your surroundings, you know where you are. So I feel there's a way that technologies can help us do that.
I'll tell you how I do like
Yeah.
this for a moment. So I go to the gym 3 times a week. Sometimes I go more, sometimes less, but I try like to schedule my early morning calls to the ones that I don't need to be on video. And I just take them. I have a little yoga mat and I stretch and I have this thing where I know I'm not going to schedule my 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., which is the early morning conversations, if I need to be in front of the computer, because then I'm already sitting and I know I'm going to be sitting for a few hours. So I got that. So it's like these little habits or things that you design. To me, like I feel like if I wear the Apple Watch, I'm going to be looking too many things on notifications. And It's also about how do you manage your time. Like I stopped a few years ago looking at, I don't have push notifications in any, some people get upset with me, but it became a way for me to be autonomous. One of the reasons why I also moved here to Thailand was like, here you don't have to be earning so much money to live a really good life, which that by itself reduces your stress levels because everything, you know, you could, what I would pay in an apartment in a big city anywhere I have, I'm paying half the price and I'm getting a very nice private home. So also I think the decision of where you live is also affecting that ability to, especially if you're in front of the computer all day. I made a decision in 2019 that I'm only going to be living in summer. I don't want to live where there's winter and I don't want to live in expensive places. That for me has been very rewarding. It didn't make me
Thailand's a
make
good
less money,
place.
by the way. Yeah.
No, of course, no, yeah, but yeah, you're right. That if you find out the key pressure triggers and then try to ease them, it's basically again like you're just architecting a better outcome by reducing risk, right? In a way, sometimes the way you look at life, which might be like, hey, progression means being at that stage, owning that car, owning that house, living in that city, versus progression means being happy, being comfortable, in knowing what you want to do in life. I haven't figured out what I want to do in life, so
Having
yeah,
time,
yeah, having time,
having
exactly,
time
yeah,
for
having
yourself.
time, most important, yeah, and with family. So that's why I think like slowing down helps you realize that there's more to what you're trying to do, even if you're not doing that, even if it didn't exist. I keep questioning, like, so what? I keep asking myself, I did something, I felt great, it was an achievement for myself, so what? Was it a vanity metric? I got a number hit, so what? Like, what is the next step? Like, how do we continue to progress from there? And at the end, what if I didn't do any of it? Would it even create any impact or of impact? Because there are other people doing it. So I think like just how do you continue to push forward? How do you continue to stay that yes, you need to continue creating value, right? Without expecting things in return, which is again very difficult, right? Because unless you have a revenue generation, you're sorted, you have everything going on, you can do fun projects. But for founders, it's not it, right? Like it's very hard to.
Whenever I go on a conversation with somebody for the One World family, I think about, okay, let's talk about the desired outcomes, right? What do we want to achieve from this conversation? But then I have this other train of thought. I was like, okay, let's not be attached to any outcome
Outcome. Yeah.
because, so on the one hand, like, you know, you need to create outcomes
Mm.
because otherwise there's no economy. Like I said, there's no community without economy. Everybody needs and wants to thrive. But at the same time, for you, for your personal journey, you know that while you want to, on the outside world, create these desired outcomes in the conversation, in your actions, but at the same time, you are be like, okay, I'm practicing not being attached to any of those outcomes. And that is such a dissonance that happens. I like to say we have a heart and it's beating. And because of that, we all have a rhythm. We're all musicians deep inside. We all have this artistic side, but some of us, the founders, we just go and create something that winds up eating our time in front of the computer and doing some damage on our nervous system. And at the same time, we're passionate about it. We want to get it going. Then I have some friends that are now going through this juncture of like, okay, why are we doing what we're doing? Right? It's very important to ask the questions you're asking and what is like next for me. And I like to say, think where you can be of service, make a good impact on others. Maybe when we are young, we're like, yeah, we want to experience having a nice car. Today, it's more important to have it for me a nice house where we can have space for our pets and kids. But at one point, like when you go through this, like I'm out there to get some money for myself, or I'm out there to get some money for my family, you want to be like doing something that's good for your environment, for others, doing the work that we do in the One World family, where we meet for these encounters. And so, you know, talking about community and connection, one of the things that I noticed, like a lot of communities just run on this basic notion of like there is something we need to get out of this, so we're here for this,
Yeah.
versus how can we be of service to others, or how can we create a deeper connection with other people. And deeper connection, it comes from questions like, what do you deeply care about? Like, what's deeply meaningful to you? Or how do you find love in your life? And what challenges do you have with that? Things that are very personal.
Very personal. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The understanding of community or being part of a community is still sort of transactional, right? I want to achieve an outcome. A community feels like a free way of doing that, right? Some communities are orchestrated with those guiding principles where everyone who's coming in also has to contribute. That happens a lot of like in these like tech and professional networks. And when I was building out that community on WhatsApp, people were like, yeah, we do this is why we have a very high engagement. If people are not engaging, then I'll just remove them. I'm like, okay, fine, great, but then what's the point? It's like basically saying that, hey, if someone doesn't say hi to me every day for the next 365 days, I'll stop talking to them. Even if you don't talk to your, like, say, your best friend for 10 years, but you meet them after 10 years, it won't matter. You'll just go back in time and be that person with them again. So I do realize, yes, it is good. Otherwise, because you don't also want clutter. If you feel like, hey, I'm part of this network or ecosystem and I want to give and I want to contribute, but I don't see 95% of the people doing that, then they'll basically try to find somewhere else to do that. So you have to make it happen in a way. But yeah, as you said, like sometimes I think not be attached with the outcomes, just see where it is going. It's always going to be that 80-20 rule, right? Like 20% of the members creating 80% of the value. But it doesn't mean the rest of the 80% people don't matter. It's just that there are other things going on with their life. They might be focused on something or the other, but they made a choice to be part of this. That was a choice that they did. No one was forced into it. So, which means that there is some intent, and that intent might change. But how do you just continue to engage them? They might not be open to sharing, but they might just be silently observing, absorbing everything. But when the right time comes, the right opportunity comes, they'll step up and then they'll contribute.
Yes. In other words, what are the best practices to create collaboration engagement in the community? And at the Oka One World family, something that we do is we invite for meditations. So just come for 20 minutes and sit down with us. Then later you can leave. You don't have to be with us. But we have this shared opportunity to come together, even if some of us are introverts and some are like me, extroverts. And we all have different situations in our lives. But if we could just come together for a moment, even of silence, or have once a week somebody from the community who's signing up to step up about some, share a story or some wisdom. I think these are things that are important, that a lot of communities around the tech space are missing out. I know that when I was in my years of tech, I did think about all these things. But now kind of I want to bring these things back to people who are in more in the tech space, because at the end of the day, it's the awareness that everybody's having that is what creates the synergy, the trust. It's like how people are showing up for themselves. A lot of times when I was in my early years, or most of my years, maybe I could say, it would be like I'm just like, people are talking to me and like I have all these things going on in the back of my operating system about things I want to achieve. And is this the right moment to talk about this? Or I wasn't really present. And you know, present is another word of like, here, I'm going to give you a present. And that's coming back to like, how can, like I'm running a community, you're running a community, and there's all these community builders. How can we collaborate?
Yeah. So I think that synergy is a good way to go about it. So let's say that, like Oka One World family, right? Like very much on getting to know people personally, building that sense of like calmness, relax. There is some form of like therapeutic outcome to this family that you're building. And let's say for the Generative Beings, which is like an AI professional network ecosystem, at the end, both of these have humans, and that means that same person can be in both of them. The intent for going are different, but let's say if there was a synergy where we could think of how to maybe create like this thought process and how can people who are building AI products or people who are in the technology space how can they have mindfulness and how can they ask the right questions? How can we bring those two together? And then I feel that that could be like a very small way. It could be like either a session or it could be a track, could be things that you could curate. Like you talked about that example of like that project of yours where every week like creative people are coming in to that space and they're doing something. And I feel like that's one way where we can also integrate technology in a way and get people in and sort of share learnings with each other. I do like the idea of every week, let's say one person steps up and talks about something that matters to them. And this means that there are 52 valuable topics and 52 valuable community members that you get to learn from. Then the question becomes like, do you have time for those 52 hours in a year? Right? Yes, you would, but then you will only use it if you feel that there's clear value in it. Sometimes you just want, okay, great, the recording's there. Let me get a summary, let me get some snippet, and when I have time, I'll go back and watch it. So finding those like again that overlap, and I feel that the overlap's quite obvious. Everyone who's trying to build things, who is in a rush to build a career and wants to sort of slow down, connect with people, connect with humans, and how can they do it together? I think that's the place where community builders like just take an example of you and me, like we can bring two networks together and have those people share what they're thinking. I'm pretty sure like even in your ecosystem you'll have people thinking about like what's going to happen with AI. We wanted like a career and now this is creating a stress in our life, that what's going to happen to our jobs. How can you ask us to slow down and think through at this stage? We need to push, we need to upskill, we need to do a lot of things. So that hype is, I think, that FOMO that is being driven across the world. And a lot of things also affect our decision making. And we could bring these networks together to sort of help them like stay
Yes.
calm and think through.
Yes, I keep thinking, when is all this AI really going to make us work less? Or when are we going to have this advantage of having the technology really like allowing us the freedom that we want? So far, it's not been showing up. It's showing up that, oh, we have all these new capabilities, but we also need to manage so many more things. There's all these new threats. And I think that the power of all this is how we as humans are showing up. A lot of times in community, things are happening and you're not going to make it. And it's okay because things are also running without you being there. And that's also coming to realization, this is fine. Like, I'm not going to be available everywhere. So also that sense of letting go, which is another one of those things I have here in my note. Just, how can I sometimes let go and not feel responsible to show up for everything when I need my rest time? And finding that restfulness is a big word nowadays. Softness, restfulness, how I can embody being soft and restful when I come, when I talk, when I project myself into the world. I'm always thinking, because part of this podcast that now is coming to its end is about how can we move from this, like what we call the game A, and aspire to be in game B. And what does that mean for every person? It means something different. And to me, part of that is like, how can I not impose my will onto others? Because we all kind of like, especially as founders, creators, CEOs, we always want to impose our wills onto other people, just in
Yeah.
one way or the other, right? And we get
Yeah.
to a lot of times manipulate things because we want to do it in one way or another. So also seeing that and seeing other people really being of service and not just what we want. So that takes a lot of awareness, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end, it's how do you balance your opinion versus like, is it something that you believe in versus are you flexible about it? How hard you push others to that will can be either a form of an ego or a form of confidence, very thin line between those two. I think as founders and someone who is scaled startups, once you've seen that success, many times you see that come out as like ego or arrogance, because those founders would be like, yes, we know that this is it. I don't want to waste time trying to explain to the entire world why this is the right decision. I know it is. Let's just quickly get it out. Let's get to the outcome. But sometimes, so that's where sometimes they're right, and the other people need to like understand where they're coming from, but they can't because they've not gone through that loop. But this is the place where at least like founders and CEOs, they also need to lead with compassion and empathy, and they need to understand the other people would not see their point of view. So they need to help them explain. But sometimes I just like, hey, no, I know, I just want it done this way. This is my style. This is my behavior. I don't care. If it is wrong, we'll figure it out. If it is right, I always knew this was it. So I've worked with both kind of leaders in the past as well. Both of them can be successful and failure. So it's not that one single trait leads to a particular outcome. There are a lot of factors out there. At the end, it probably just boils down to is that who would you like to work with again in your life? And if that is something that matters to you, then I think by default, you will become a better person. You'll engage people better. But if you're very much transactional, you just want to focus on the outcome, you want to deliver for the business, for the investor, and then the team and employees are just like something to care about as a payroll, then most likely it will convert into a cultural environment that is not, that becomes toxic over time. And all of that is dependent, I feel like everything on like that one single person gradually then, creating an entire, again, a community that starts to behave in a particular way.
Yeah. Uh, you know, I like this story around we're all sitting and then preparing for the marathon. And then it's all about this race. And what if it's not about everybody's figured out that it's not about winning the race? It's about
Running.
stopping in the middle of the way next to some lake or stop and have a moment with yourself and just enjoy the moment.
It's what outcome do you want, right? If you want to be like very performative and you want to get the best timing, you run, you speed up, you be very structured about it. I started running marathons long time back and now stopped long time back as well. But it was about the experience. So like got to run on hills and mountains in like cities and like different areas. And that's exactly the experience, right? Like you get to see life in a very different way. And you get to see those snapshots of real world that you would never have seen if you were just focused on your timing and just looking at the road ahead. So yeah, I mean, it's basically outcome. What is it that you want in life?
At the end, we're all going to be looking back at this journey and thinking, what has happened there and what we got out of it. I like to say that we are here to learn and grow and develop and enjoy the journey. So this has been a wonderful hour. Thank you for
Yeah,
your time,
thanks,
Shivang.
man. Good chat. Yeah, thank you for having me and in your Oka Wonderful family.